Hello, 2026. Can you feel it? There's something in the air. Maybe it's excitement, maybe it's uncertainty, maybe it's both. Every year carries its own energy, but this one feels different. So, what's really happening in the cosmos and what does it mean for you? To help us decode the stars, we have our go to intuitive astrologer, Stevie Calista. She's here to give us the astrological forecast for 2026. What's shifting, what's awakening, and what the universe is inviting us to do this year. We'll explore the major planetary movements shaping our lives, the energetic themes of the year ahead, and how to work with the cosmic flow instead of against it. So, whether you're feeling totally ready to reinvent yourself or you're just trying to get through January, this episode is your invitation to align with the magic that's already unfolding. Because the stars aren't predicting your future, they're helping you co create it. If you're listening to this, it's no accident. Hi, Stevie. Hi, Karen.
Hi.
Hi, Robin. Hi, Stevie.
Very excited for this conversation.
Me
I
too.
got my pen and my notebook. I'm ready to write all of this down, Stevie. How are you guys? I'm feeling really positive about 2026. Each year I get a little nervous, like, what is next year going to be? This year feels, I don't know, I'm feeling very optimistic.
Same.
I am too. And I think about how we are ending 2025, because when we're taping this, we're in 2025. The year for us feels like it's ending in that optimistic vibe. And I know what you're going to say, Stevie. We're starting 2026 not in Mercury retrograde.
Yes.
Okay, so now let's set the scene.
Woo. Yeah. The last 2, 3 years, I can't remember, at least 2 years, we've gone into January in a retrograde. One year it was like Mars and Mercury, I think.
Yes.
And so it's felt heavy. And so without that, we can already have that one layer that's not with us.
100%. Yeah, we go into the year feeling, I don't want to say normal because nothing's normal anymore.
No, it's not.
But we still have more of a New Year's vibe than we've had before, for sure. So we're not going into January in any retrogrades. I feel like we're a little bit more ready for the new energy, which is exciting.
Yeah, let's bring it. Before we get into the months and what to expect, is there an overall theme that you see playing out in 2026?
Yeah, it's let's go. Let's effing go.
LFG.
Ooh,
Yeah,
I love
let's
that.
effing go. We spent so much of 2025 in water and earth, except for the summer. We had a huge chunk of a taste of what 2026 is going to be like. And we'll reference some of those dates moving forward. But this coming year is all about energy, action, initiation, birth, like birthing
Mhm.
into new things, new perspectives, flexibility, strategy. It's fire and air. And we always say this when you put oxygen or air on fire, it makes more fire. And so it's going to
Mhm.
feel completely different than this does right now. This is like sludgy, but very sacred and super important to get us ready for the newness that 2026 brings.
All
So
right.
excited. So let's jump in.
So in January, and really at the end of 2025 and into most of January, we're very much ending these cycles we've been in for a couple of years. Okay. So some of them have been 7, 8 years, some of them have been 18 years, some of them have been a couple of years, but we're ending cycles right now. And so it feels like as we move into January, we're being asked to really embody what has happened to us. You go through the cycle, right? You go in and out of things, you learn. The first hit is rough. The second hit's okay, I get it. And the third one's okay, I'm going to embody this. I'm going to embrace this. I'm going to use this to create the change in myself. And so January really offers that to us. On the 26th is when Neptune moves into Aries for good. So in March of 2025 until this fall, it was in Aries. So we got a taste of this spring and summer. And Neptune in Aries operates very differently than it does in Pisces. In Pisces, we've been in this dream state. We've been thinking about our subconscious. We've been in very spiritual state. We've also been a little bit foggy and confused and floating off into the breeze. And in Aries, Neptune really asks us to create change from our beliefs quickly. Things can happen quickly. Who are you? What is your identity? Is that true? Can you rebirth yourself? I feel like 2026 is going to offer us this moment to really change who we are quickly
Wow.
or embody somebody different. We don't have to be the same person we were yesterday or last year. And Neptune and Aries gives us this moment to say, what do you want? What do you want to be? Okay, be that. Cool, be that. So that's a really big one.
It also makes me think if you're listening to this, you are someone who is interested in becoming the best version of you that you can be. And so that kind of energy will help, maybe in a very quick manner, align with who you are, with whatever opportunities you've been thinking about or working on, or what may come your way in January.
For sure. And Aries is really the sign that isn't afraid to just move forward. In fact, it's very impatient. It's really intense, you guys. Aries energy is like the big fireball. The people that have big tempers and like big dreams, big goals, and they don't have a spreadsheet to figure it out. They just go. And so everybody's going to be feeling this like big energy, pioneer courage energy in 2026 to just do the thing. I love Aries energy so much because it doesn't have to have it all figured out. And there isn't necessarily a shame around the journey itself. There's no right way to do it with Aries. It's just let's go. And then if we have to take apart the furniture that we just put together because we didn't read the instructions, we just do it. We just take it apart and put it back together. So that's what's on offer in 2026.
What a great energy to go into New Year's resolutions with. It feels like it's very empowering. If you're setting an intention, it will support that to move you forward.
Yeah, it's do the thing, make the change, take the class, try something different. It feels like you're really being supported in that.
Yeah, you don't have to be who you were before. You can just keep exploring.
I love that. So that's why we're ending January.
Yeah.
And then how long is that in place?
Goes until 2039.
Oh my goodness.
So, wow.
Oh my
March
God.
2039.
All right, people.
Wow.
Neptune's very far out there. He takes a really long time.
So we're in this very doing energy, in this empowered energy for a long time.
Yeah.
Anything you've been dreaming about?
Yeah. And I think too, like this might also bring an interesting flavor around just identity in general. Maybe a little bit of delusion around it because everything has a shadow. And so Neptune can be delusional or escapist or a little bit confusing or lost, I think, in some ways. Although Saturn will be joining the party, and we'll talk about that in a second. It gives us like I could be anything. Be anything. And so we might see some judgment from people as certain individuals start to reinvent themselves. But I just say, let's do it.
Yeah.
See where it takes us.
I like to remind people you are the star of your own movie in this lifetime. So just do it. Just be you and don't worry about what other people think. All right.
And one more thing too. This is just a small but mighty transit that happens. On January 27th, Mars conjuncts Pluto and it's at 3 degrees of Aquarius. And Mars does this every 2 years. It's not like that uncommon, but Mars and Pluto together are pretty explosive. And he's a trigger planet. And so when he triggers our shadow in Aquarius, there's something quite potent during that time. We are all going to feel our shadow surface. We're all going to feel the collective start to get uncomfortable.
That's so interesting. And it's right around also the Neptune and Aries.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
Could be the trigger.
And that identity part.
It makes me feel like humans feel empowered enough to be like, wait, this doesn't work for me. And it doesn't work for we. So what are we going to do about it?
So we're ending January that way.
Yeah. A little bang. And Aries
Wow.
tends to be angry. And Mars is an Aries ruled planet and Pluto is an intense shadow planet. So
Yeah, that's going to
Wow. All of that together.
yeah, I know. I wrote it down because I always find that Mars-Pluto conjunctions are really potent. And they happen at, like I said, every 2 years.
be, yeah, because Mars is, and just another reminder, it's the planet of
Action, masculinity, drive, passion, doing. He's a trigger planet. So in February, we have two things that I want to mention on the 14th, which is that's Valentine's Day, right?
it sure is. Yes.
Saturn moves into Aries. And so in May of 2025 until the fall, until we went into that sludgy water, earth energy, Saturn was in Aries. So we definitely got a taste of this as well. And this is until 2028. So Saturn moving into Aries, Neptune and Saturn come exactly together on the 20th. So all of February, we're going to feel this, all of probably March, even into April, these two coming together. So let me explain Saturn in Aries. Saturn is like how we take responsibility, our karma, what needs to get done. Sometimes it's a big life lesson, sometimes it's a brick wall. Usually it requires work and also discipline and devotion. And so Saturn in Aries conjunct Neptune, and I know we talked about this in this last forecast, but this is really where you can take your dreams, which is Neptune, and make them a reality, make them into a structure. Because Saturn's the planet that says, okay, every day you wake up at 6 a.m. and you work out. And then 3 months later, you're like, holy shit, I did that. I created a realistic physical impact on myself. And Saturn is very much this planet of structure and systems. And so this is about taking how you feel and your dreams and your subconscious and then putting in the work to create a new identity or start the business. Change your job, change your relationship, because Aries is not afraid to say, what do I need for myself? It is the most self-focused energy of all of the zodiac signs. So we're going to be asking all of ourselves, what do I need to do to create the reality around me to match my dreams, to match my desires, to match like what I want in life? And then what work do I need to put in order to make that happen? And the thing with the Neptune Saturn conjunction on the 20th is very much like it doesn't have to take like rolling a huge boulder up a mountain. Is the energy behind it? Are your beliefs behind it? Does the vibration match? Do you know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to take so long. With Neptune, it can be like sprinkle some fairy dust and all of a sudden you're in a different vibration and it's easier for you to roll that up because there's 4 people behind you rolling up the boulder.
February 20th is something that everybody should circle.
On the calendar.
For
Yeah.
sure. Right around that time. In May of 2025, they got close. So we felt this, but they weren't exact.
That was my next question for you. In both of these conjunctions, Neptune and Aries in January, and then Saturn and Aries in February, should people take a look back at those months from 2025 just to see what might have been brewing? This energy is being brought back in this year. And could this be taking what might have started to have rumblings in 2025 at that time and
100%.
really doing something with it?
Most likely, you guys planted seeds at that time. Most likely, there was a calling, a whisper. You started something, you got really excited about something, and maybe the fall came and you were like, did I really? Where's my momentum? Where did it go? And so this time right now is really important. And even the first part of January is to clear up some of the things that are keeping you stuck, or maybe some of the loops, or taking care of your nervous system, resting, whatever it is that you're doing right now to prepare you again for what those seeds are going to start growing.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I can speak for myself and for Karen too when it comes to even Seeking Center. 2025, during those months, I was really conscious of it. Holy moly. All the things you said about dreams becoming a reality and understanding our identity, even all of those things took
Planting the seeds.
Yeah, those seeds were
Yeah,
planted.
that was exactly when that all
And
happened.
you could feel the energy. And then you could feel the energy in the fall of 2025, where you and I talked about it's like we're just walking through the muck and we
Yeah.
need the new shoes.
Yep. Wait, realignment.
Yeah. And so that energy, though, was very exciting and energizing.
Totally. And Saturn in Aries is really about boundaries, sovereignty, taking responsibility for yourself. So I do think that we're going to see a lot of the things that came in during that 2025 window really start to grow. And new stuff too. Aries isn't afraid to be like, let's spin 8 plates.
That's what we'll be doing.
Yeah. Let's spin 8 plates. We have time. When you have fire and air, you have more energy. So it is going to bring more energy and more burnout. So you got to be careful.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're also talking about too, is that's that idea of sovereignty and what's good for me and not getting caught up in all of the excitement of the things that you want to do, also being really careful there.
Yes, be
That's
careful.
something we both have to watch.
You got to balance the fire and air with earth and water. Just like right now we're balancing, we need more fire, we need more air. You got to balance it with just chilling out.
All right.
February also and into March, we have 2 eclipses, and we probably won't go super deep into this because we can go deeper into it at the time. But these eclipses are going to be in February, it's going to be in Aquarius, and in March, it's going to be in Virgo. And so we get a new taste of the Aquarian nodal shift in February. And so eclipse season brings massive shifts. Okay, so February and March are going to bring that moment where your soul is like, nope, you got to turn right, you got to turn left, you need to end this, begin this. And so those are intense months too, in general. The North Node is a North Node eclipse in February. And so that is usually something where your soul's pulling you in a direction of alignment with purpose. And Aquarius rules the collective consciousness. We could definitely see collectively something big happen around that time.
Okay.
Aquarius is like power to the people, innovation, and looking at things like what's best for the group. So that will bring that. And then in March, we have a South Node eclipse in Virgo, and this brings endings.
Mm.
That has something to do with how you're serving, your perfectionism tendencies, you're shoulding yourself. Something about that is being asked to let go.
And where is that in March?
That is March 3rd.
So it's beginning.
Yeah, March 3rd, 12 degrees of Virgo. So the eclipse season moves us into April, and there's two things in April. Speaking of the trigger planet of Mars, Mars will trigger Saturn and Neptune in April. And it's the same thing, like those Saturn, Neptune, Aries energy we've been speaking about of identity and taking responsibility for yourself and your dreams is going to trigger you to massively take action. So in April, I highly suggest moving your body. In 2026, with so much Aries energy, there ends up being a massive buildup of chi, of life force energy, and you have to move it physically. It cannot be moved mentally. You cannot rest it off. Like it just doesn't work with fire. For the love of all things, move your body.
Duly noted. Okay.
For the love of your relationships, neighbors, friends, don't explode on them. Move your body. And that can be however you need it to be, but that will be very strong in April. As spring comes, let's like go out and do the things we need to do to burn off some of that energy. And it also is going to be very motivating for us to do the things that we want to do to accomplish our dreams.
So it means also taking action on those things.
Definitely taking action. But there will be so much of it.
Yeah, because Saturn in Neptune, Saturn in Aries, it's a lot of doing,
Yeah,
devotion.
totally. And so then if you have Mars there, he just like really heightens that. They're showing me an image of, have you ever seen Inside Out, the anger
Yes.
Yeah.
guy? That's what they're showing me. That's what it's going to feel like is when he like explodes.
But sometimes that's a good thing.
For sure.
People need that in
Yeah.
order to
Yeah,
feel the strength to move forward.
Yeah.
that's true.
I really feel like people are going to be even more brave and courageous than they've ever felt. And it's going to be cool. And we're also going to see the shadow of that, where the shadow of Aries is everything's about you. So it gets a little narcissistic.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we'll see. But I do feel like there's so many of us that have grown up to become people pleasers. It's so beneficial for those of us that have to show up for ourselves in this way.
Yeah.
The other thing about April that's huge is that Uranus goes into Gemini, and this is on April 26th. Uranus was in Gemini in July of 2025, again until the fall. So we had a taste of this energy. Uranus is the planet of disruption, change. He's your middle finger that says, screw this, I'm just gonna do the thing that is actually real and true for me. Uranus is like our higher mind. And so he really asks of us to break out of prisons and traps that we've put ourselves in or that we've been victim of. In Gemini, he's going to ask us to completely change our mind. Uranus in Gemini is so innovative, so open. Gemini is the archetype that is just the data collector, the one that just is constantly saying, I don't know, let's collect some information. And it doesn't necessarily say these are facts. This is a black and white yes or no. With Gemini, there's always room for perspective shifting or even holding multiple realities. And so you bring a planet like Uranus in there, it means that science and data and technology and everything is going to explode, like in all kinds of ways. I imagine like for the next many years, we're going to see some huge shifts in technology.
Wow.
And our education system is going to completely change. How we learn, kids in school, I don't think so anymore. That's just my take on it. But I definitely feel like we're going to be learning differently. Because I think for a lot of people, school and education does feel like a trap, or it does feel like a structure that isn't letting them breathe fully who they are into the world. And that's not true for everybody, but I think that's going to shift, just like how we learn and how we communicate in general.
And there'll be new opportunities born. Maybe there'll be new structures put in place or
For
some
sure.
sort of looser structure.
Yeah, because ultimately Uranus wants freedom above anything else. So freedom to you could feel like routine. Freedom to you could feel like pure spontaneity. It just depends on the person.
Yeah.
And by this stage, if you've done all of this work, that will complement the feeling of, okay, I've made it. I've gotten out of that situation, or I've done that thing, and now I'm actually where I want to be. So is that the feeling, like that's the other side of the freedom that you could be feeling?
For sure. And Gemini really asks us to look at multiple perspectives. And so it's going to break up some of the judgments that we have just in general. Gemini is so good at being like, that person had this upbringing and this person had this upbringing. So based on their experiences, they have different realities and different beliefs, and both are valid.
That's right. I think ultimately, maybe there's more of an acceptance that there's more than one way to do something. There's many ways to do it. And so that being born will be super beneficial.
Yeah.
For sure. The other side of this, because we always have to talk about that, is imagine yourself going into a library and being so excited. You're just like, oh my God, I have to go to the bathroom. I'm so excited. You're just like so excited about this library. And it's so stimulating. And then it's exciting. And then you're taking in information, but then very quickly you realize this is too much. This is way, way too overwhelming for my nervous system. So that is Uranus and Gemini. Constant data, constant perspectives. Think electrical library, which is
Wow.
so cool, but at the same time for our physical bodies. And I remember feeling this in the summer and being like, especially for such an earthy person, it's just so mental. So again, I'm going to tell you guys to like go down into your body and get into the lower parts of your body, which again, moving your body, grounding, whatever that looks like for you, to de-stimulate yourself. Because we live in an information society that's constantly like that anyway. And so this is going to exaggerate that.
It reminds me of for people who are like, okay, give me some real tangible examples. To me, it's like the explosion of AI.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe even for many in the time period in 2025 where it became much more of the norm, like
Totally.
everybody's using it now in some way. And there was like a point where it became that. That to me feels like it's that, but now probably even heightened because it is now that energy is back, but it's here to stay for longer.
100%.
Which then does help, I would think, people understand what you're saying in terms of the way that we learn, the structures that have been in place for so long. They've been deteriorating over however many years, but you can see why, because there's just new ways of doing things. And there's a better understanding of we all learn differently. And so we may not know exactly what that looks like, but that shift begins.
It begins all the way. And air and fire, Gemini, Aries are fast. So it's not like we're in Pisces, Taurus right now. That is slow. That is super duper slow, really methodical, dream-like. Aries and Gemini are like, it's instant. And so things are going to happen quickly, I think.
I think it's going to feel good to a lot of people, but I think it's also going to feel overwhelming.
Yeah, which is what you're saying with that library of, oh my God, this is just
Too much. They need to go lay in the moss.
Yeah, seriously. So make that time where you're moving your body, be on the grass.
Yeah.
And I keep even hearing just intuitively, like, to make sure we're eating cooling foods, drinking a lot of water, getting into like just the cool energy of the muck that we're in right now. How do we really use that energy to help us balance ourselves out next year? Yeah,
Very Ayurvedic.
it's true.
Okay. So that's April.
That's April. So a lot happens January, like first part of the year, right?
Yeah,
A lot of big shifts.
those are. And I think, again, a reminder to people that a lot of the shifts we started feeling in 2025. So you can look back at some of those transits and see how you were feeling or what came up, because some of those may be revisited, or at least the energy, the feel of some of those months is what will be here to stay for some time.
So the next thing that I have is another big planet shift, and it's actually in June. Not that nothing happens in May, but nothing major. June 30th, we have Jupiter going into Leo. And this lasts for about a year, so summer to summer. The last time it was in Leo was 2014, if you want to look back and get a flavor of that layer of that year. And Jupiter in Leo is like here to create, here to express, here to have hobbies, here to laugh, have fun, have leisure. And just to go back, we've had summer to summer, we've had Jupiter in Cancer. And so we've all been very nostalgic. I don't know about you guys. I want to go back to 1996.
Yes, very much.
Jupiter in Cancer likes to learn about its family. It's very home, it's very traditional, it's very emotional, but it's very expansive in that way, in that home and family sense. Jupiter in Leo says, screw all that. Let's have fun. Let's play. Let's create. I have things to say. Again, this is going to be interesting because we're talking about Aries, me, Leo on stage, Gemini with all this information. And so I honestly feel like people are going to be a little bit burnt out from like watching other people's story because we live in social media world. So I think it's going to be important for us to be careful to unplug sometimes just so that we can feel our own Leo stomach, solar plexus, creative life force energy. Because this year is going to offer us such beautiful opportunity to create something new. It's like purely from us, purely from our heart and our gut. So I imagine it's going to be really cool in this way. We're going to see a lot of like creative things come to play. But we
Wow.
have to be careful of imposter syndrome with these things.
Thank you for bringing that up because I think even now, when you look at
Mhm.
social media in general, you can start to feel that a bit. So
Yeah.
I think if it's like now being turned up because people are feeling more empowered, which is good, they should, and they should be proud of where they are, who they are on this journey so far.
For sure.
But it's a good watch out.
Yeah. I was getting my nails done the other day. My nail tech, she's 21. She's really young. We were talking about Stranger Things, and I was like, that was my childhood. That was reality, not the Demogorgons, but
Yeah,
that
right.
time period,
I
like going to
agree.
the mall. And she's, I'm so jealous. And I've heard a lot of that generation say that. And I asked her why. She's like, because you lived in a time where we weren't watching everybody's life happen and like the good side of their life play out, and then comparing ourselves to what we weren't doing. And I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's so true.
I think about it all the time because when I think about my daughter, it makes me sad that she didn't have that, that
Yeah,
she
totally.
was born into this time where you're looking at everyone else and
Yeah.
there's no simplicity.
I was literally just thinking of simplicity, and it sucks so much of your time
Yeah.
away from life.
We played outside.
I know. And
Yeah,
we do talk about that too, how grateful we were for that simplicity.
for sure.
But I think as you're talking though, Stevie, I'm just thinking about even as an individual, as you're evolving, it feels if you've gone through this half the year doing all the things that you've been talking about, like this is the time where you can actually feel good about where you've gotten to. You can have the fun, you can relax a little bit. Maybe you do brag a little bit about how far you've actually come in your life. You can feel like you can stand in that identity a little
100%.
more. So it feels like a really strong first part of the year if you harness that energy for you.
Yes. It's in being empowered.
Yeah, which is exciting.
If people that are in some nervous system states where they're struggling, if you see all these empowered people, so I think it's just really important to unplug and listen to that part of you that really has something to say.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Be selective.
Yeah, for
Put some
sure.
Yeah.
guardrails for
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah, if people are going to be on stage, it's going to be loud, which is awesome, but
Yeah.
it can be a lot. That's June 30th. That's a big one. And then July on the 4th, actually, we have just another small thing, what I always like to talk about Mars. Mars hits Uranus. Mars conjunct Uranus on July 4th, 2026. This is, again, it's going to be a trigger energy. So this is really an important time. There's so much air, so much activity with this to make sure to move your body. And it's summertime, at least up here. So that will be beneficial. But this is really where we're going to see some big things be announced, I think, with technology, education, change. This is a huge trigger for change. Completely different perspective on what we currently have. So something to note.
Interesting. And that it's coming kind of midsummer and going into fall of 2026. Something will be changing in a more, it seems like what you're saying, collective way.
Yeah, for sure.
But it could be in a way that does trigger you.
For sure. But most likely it's going to change your mind. about something.
Okay.
So you can look in your chart and see what house is Gemini in, the very beginning degrees of Gemini, and see where you're being asked to change. And at that time, there will be something that happens. And with Uranus, things are unexpected. We can't just guess. And it happens usually in a lightning bolt instant. The other thing that I have is the second eclipse season is going to be in August. And so this is August 12th at 20 degrees of Leo and August 28th at 4 degrees of Pisces. So the first one, we get a new taste because the nodes have been in Pisces and Virgo. We've been being and doing. We've been resting and figuring out how we can be in service in new ways. We've been really connecting to our intuition and trying to follow how we can be productive based on that alignment, not the opposite. And so the Leo 20 degrees eclipse on the 12th is going to give us a taste of the shift that will happen later in 2027. This is a south node, so there's a letting go process here. In Leo, there's something to do with your ego, something you've been creating. There's something about this that's going to ask you to listen to your heart and let something go. I always think of the heart when I think of Leo because it's here to really share and express from that place. So the 28th is at 4 degrees of Pisces. And so this is a North Node eclipse, and it's asking you to listen. Listen to your intuition, slow down, rest, connect to the spiritual side of yourself, the creative side of yourself. And obviously, the eclipses that we're mentioning are way more nuanced, and we'll probably talk about those in our monthly forecasts. But that's a vibe of August. It's eclipse season again. So whatever went down at the end of February into March is going to be revisited in a new way. These cycles are connected.
Helpful.
The last thing that I have, honestly, so much of astrology happens in the beginning of the year. It's just it's like a trickle. Like the end of the year isn't very loud at all. Besides eclipse season, we have a Venus retrograde October 3rd through November. And this one is in Scorpio and Libra. So Venus retrogrades give us a moment to say, do I desire this? What do I actually want? How do I love? What do I love? Who do I love? All the things. And it gives us a moment to really figure out, wait a minute, is this in alignment? And so Libra and Scorpio, we're talking about relationship stuff. This is really going to bring up, am I in alignment in my relationships? Is this what I really want? And even during that period of time, we're going to be in the relationship sector. And we're so much in ourselves in the beginning part of the year. I feel like this part of the year is really going to give us a moment to think about the mirrors that we have in each other and our relationships in general. So when Venus slows down, things can get a little frustrating.
And remember, these are relationships that are your business relationships and your friendships, and obviously also in romantic relationships, but it's not just romantic relationships.
Yes, and just like your own pleasures, your own desires. Sometimes people will tell me during a Venus retrograde, nothing feels pleasurable. And I'm like, yeah, but that's because you're being asked to slow down and really think about, were you on autopilot from those things, or is it actually desirable for you? And oftentimes people will come back into your life that were there in a previous chapter to remind you. And we'll talk about this probably more in the monthly, but that's when Venus changes from an evening star to a morning star. So she goes away out of our view.
Oh.
She goes into the underworld and switches, and that's a really big. It's almost like we can't find our Venus. We can't find our feminine. We can't
Interesting.
we can't see her anymore.
I love that you're pointing that out. I never thought of that.
And that's, again, you said October 3rd through end of November?
October 3rd until November 14th. And part of that too, we'll have a Mercury retrograde. So they're going to be an overlap at the end of October into the beginning of November. So that period of time is going to probably feel really good for some people because there's a slowdown from all the fire and air.
Yeah.
But also it can be a little frustrating because 2 planets are going to be retrograde.
All right.
Wow.
Lots of reviewing. And all Mercury retrogrades happen in water signs this coming year. And so there's an emotional aspect to the slowdown period. It's asking us to, but how do you really feel?
Oh my goodness.
How do you really feel? But again, I think this is going to help balance out some of the fire and air.
Yeah. So now that we've gone through the year overall, wow, 2026 is fire and air. And get ready, as we said at the beginning of this episode, LFG.
I think so many of us are ready.
I agree.
I feel ready.
Let's do it.
Is there anything we can end with, because most people are listening to this at the beginning of January, that we would suggest somebody set as an intention, or how can somebody use the time right now before things really ignite at the end of January?
It's a great question. A few things are popping into my mind. I would say number one, set the intention to be open, to be very open to changing your mind, to having a pivot, to changing your identity, to be inspired and do something completely different. It feels like a year where planning our whole year out isn't necessarily going to be very beneficial because we're going to be probably not feeling it at the time. What we're feeling now is going to be very different than what we feel later. And I would say, just in general, allow yourself to really just experiment and plant new seeds as much as you possibly can. And with Aries too, and all the fire and air, like make sure to check in with how your body feels, because Aries is the body. It's very physical. So you can constantly be asking yourself, what do I need? What do I want? And be prepared for being more bold and courageous than you normally feel. So if there are some goals that have been sitting on your bucket list for a while and you're like, I just don't know if I'm brave enough to go travel solo to India or something, maybe it's a year where that actually can happen for you.
You're supported. It feels like the energy is supporting each of us on that journey to be bolder and more ourselves.
Yeah.
And what we came here to do.
And with that comes more independence too. So we're going to be wanting to do things by ourselves, I think.
And then apparently talk about them in June.
Listen to my story.
We'll write it.
Yes.
Everyone's going to write memoirs in 2026.
I love that, though. I think for so many of us, you always have those whispers, and so many of us second guess that, or wait for another day, or wait till I'm ready. And I think it's great to have the energy behind you to just try it. You don't have to jump off the cliff, but you can take 5 steps forward.
Totally.
And I just love that the energy of 2026 is supporting that.
And you don't have to have a plan. It doesn't have to be perfect. I feel like 2026 is going to offer us that there really aren't any mistakes. It's just like the journey of learning and pivoting as you're going through that. Yeah.
Yep.
I feel so much better having some sort of blueprint and understanding of what to expect. Obviously, we don't know exactly how things will play out, but we can understand energetically how we may be feeling. And we've already started to feel some of those energies in this past year. So if you're listening to this now in January, look back at some of these transits in the past year. I keep everything in my calendar. And so I can look back at some of the get-togethers or the meetings that I had, and it will jog that memory or feeling of what that time was, because you're going to be revisiting the energy of that.
Yeah, especially the summer of this year. Like,
Yeah.
very similar, which is cool because it's not like this isn't brand new energy for us. We're not going to be shocked. Except for Jupiter and Leo, we haven't had that yet.
That's right. And it makes me think, Stevie, a bunch of us got together in the summer of 2025, and it was really energetic and beautiful. I will invite more of that.
More of that.
More
Cheers.
of that.
I love what you said at the beginning, Rob, in the intro, where you talked about like this doesn't predict the future, but it helps you co-create it. And I think that's something we always have to remember in the midst of all of this, that we have the power
That's right.
to make those choices, but the energy will be our co-pilot as we move forward.
Yeah.
It's a really powerful way to look at the year and what we can do. I'm just want to see the first few months and see where that goes.
I know, me too. And you can join us every month because we do our monthly forecast with Stevie. We look forward to listening and learning and being a part of it together. Thank you, Stevie,
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for laying this all out. Here's to 2026 and all that's to come.
Cheers.
Cheers.